Hey, Tom here from the Run Testers with another running shoe review. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the ECCO BIOM 2.1 Country. It's a trail shoe. I'm heading out on some light trails, a little bit of woodland, a little bit of park. So yeah, I'll be back in a bit with my thoughts. See you in a bit. The ECCO BIOM 2.1 X Country costs £130 and weighs in at 350 grams or 12.5 ounces for men in a size 8.5. We currently don't have any information on the drop of the shoe. The ECCO BIOM 2.1 X Country is a trail shoe that the brand says is designed for speed, comfort and high performance. It uses something called Biom Natural Motion Technology to encourage the foot to move naturally with a low profile that means you can feel the trail underfoot. There's a Phorene midsole that aims to deliver energy return and bounce, and a rubber outsole for grip. The upper combines a mix of 3 layers including textiles and Yak Leather that has a soft, stretchy construction. Oh, first of all, the fit in the BIOM 2.1s. I've actually got a 8.5 pair of shoes here. I normally wear an 8. They're only a little bit too big, so I definitely wouldn't size down too much. I definitely think the 8 would have been the right one for me, but it's not way off the ones that I'm wearing at the moment. They do seem to be quite comfortable from the off, and they do feel quite roomy in the toe box, although slightly narrow in the mid foot. So yeah, true to size for me. Right, let's head out for a run. Okay, so I did about 10k around some local trails in this shoe, and that varied between harder gravel paths, some dry mud paths, and across grass and parkland. So not the most difficult terrain to run on, but I don't think this shoe is particularly designed for difficult terrain. I'd never heard of ECCO before. Nick tells me that his dad uses ECCO shoes for golf, which might suggest it's a brand that possibly isn't particularly that focused on the running side of things. So that might lead quite nicely into what I'm going to say about the shoe. Over that 10k, what I found about it, well, it's a fairly heavy shoe. It's 350 grams in my size 8, and it looks like it's got a lot of cushioning in it. So that sort of tallies up in my head, and I would have assumed that this would be a bit of a comfy, slow run cruiser that just sort of deadens the impact while you're running and keeps you comfortable, but doesn't really do a lot other than that. What I found about the shoe is that it has a very low profile. I couldn't actually find any information about the stack height, but it feels far different than what the cushioning would suggest. So from when I started running in it on road, it felt like I could feel the road under my feet a lot more than I expected to from this shoe. And the brand does talk about the shoe being designed so that you can feel the trails under your feet. And in many ways, it does feel like a more minimal shoe, which is surprising considering the weight and the chunkiness that you kind of see from the shoe. So when I was running on those harder trails, I could really feel those rocks and hard surfaces underneath my feet, which I wasn't really expecting from this shoe. So if that's what your focus is, then you know that might be a good option for you. The problem comes when it's actually quite a heavy shoe, so you're not really getting the benefits of having a minimal shoe with this. It's quite chunky and quite heavy. The other thing I found is that ECCO's midsole is made of something called Phorene, and that is meant to be bouncy and propulsive. I definitely didn't get that from this shoe. I didn't feel any sort of bounce at all in this. It actually felt to me like it was deadening my running, especially when I was on the harder surfaces. On the softer surfaces like the grass, it felt fine. It was definitely better at those surfaces because it wasn't having to cushion me from that harder ground. So it was fine over those surfaces, but definitely wasn't really an inspiring run. It did feel quite hard to me, like you could feel the ground underneath, which wasn't very nice. I wanted more cushioning from this shoe. Also, it just didn't feel like it was really propelling me forward in any way. It just felt like I was running on a flat shoe that was just hitting the ground, and I was taking a bit of effort to go back up again. So it's definitely not a shoe designed for running at any speed. What I would say is that it's a very good walking shoe. When walking around in this, it did feel very comfortable. I definitely didn't have any issues with the midsole just making it not very comfortable with the lack of cushioning on the harder ground. So on walking, it feels fine. And that might suggest that it's sort of a transitional shoe from walking to just going out for a few little trail runs. It's definitely not a shoe designed for going any distance. I don't think I would ever use this for over 5k probably for a run, but maybe if I was going for a hiking weekend and somebody said, do you want to go for a little jog somewhere, this might be fine for that. But other than that, I just found it to be a little bit of a uninspiring shoe that just didn't feel like what I wanted to feel from this shoe. I just wanted a bit of cushioning, especially with the weight of the shoe. I'd also say that it is a very comfortable shoe. The upper is very nicely designed. There's a lot of space in it. It's got this sort of sock design that has a nice level of padding around everywhere. So it does feel very comfortable as an upper. It's just when you start clocking up the miles, it just doesn't seem to do anything for me. So yeah, didn't really get a lot from it in that first run. Hoping I will get more as I test it out a bit further. The grip on the outsole, it's fine. It's got this sort of lattice design. When the run I took out was a very nice day, so it was quite dry. I went across mud, grass and harder surfaces, but nothing slippy. So it felt fine on those surfaces, but I don't know what it'd be like on the wet. So I need to give that a bit more testing as I carry on with the shoe. But that's it. That's all I got really from the first run. So my verdict on this shoe, I won't go into too much depth in this because I think you've probably got an idea of how I feel about it. I think it's just a pretty general shoe. I definitely wouldn't compare it with many other trail shoes that I've got. I think it's trying to go for that sort of workhorse feel, maybe like a New Balance Hero or something like that, where it's really just trying to be there for ticking off the miles. But the problem is those shoes do have a lot of cushioning in, so when they're great road to trail shoes and you can run on harder surfaces and it sort of deadens the impact, but also does a nice job over the trails as well. This looks like it should be a road to trail shoe, but I don't think it is. It just isn't very comfortable on those harder surfaces. And yeah, I don't think I'd run for more than a kilometre or so on harder surfaces in it, just because it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of cushioning in it. So that's really it for me on this first run. I think my initial reaction is that it's not a very inspiring shoe, but I might be proved wrong over the next few runs. Quite often when I try a shoe, over the first couple of runs I'll find something new out. But they're my thoughts so far on the ECCO BIOM 2.1 X Country M.